Warm greetings from the high 10. It's Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. I had something on my mind pertaining to Cal City. Before I even got this information about 25 minutes ago, I was going to do a live pertaining to law enforcement and the DA of Bakersfield, California, not notifying the public that they assume or presume that the boy children, were deceased. And I'm going to want to discuss that first because that was my initial video I wanted to do before I got this news about the bio mom seeking $40 million from the state of California Department of Human Services. I don't know what is going on out there in California, but I detect some funny business from the bio parents. I think this is very disruptive and dishonorable due to the fact of the allegations against the bio mother for child neglect of her children. And many people did not know that the bio mom of the boys had other children. And still, there are 2 living children that people do not know about that are in the care of their fathers. And I always mention those children because just like with the case of Summer Wells, I always mention the living children because they are living and they deserve to be discussed and honored as well, besides those that are missing and or deceased. I will play you commentary by KGET 17 News coming out of California. But as I said, I want to first discuss the Ellies and the district attorney's reasoning for not letting the public know that they thought the children were dead, because there's something wrong with that. I understand they had an investigation to do. That's not where I have the problem. The problem is people were still wandering around thinking the children could possibly be alive. For those who thought that perhaps the children were given up through a second illegal adoption, or maybe sold the children, or some people thought perhaps the children were trafficked. So therefore, if there are people walking around still concerned about the children as of last year, they still had done searches, to my knowledge, up until March of last year. Why in the world would you all not tell the public that, hey, we have information that the children are deceased. We do not know where the children are. That is why Cal City was relinquished of having the case. And Bakersfield got the case because we got information. So you wait a whole year to bring charges against these 2 bums, Jacqueline and Trezell, but you knew all along that the children were deceased because of information that obviously came from a child or one of the remaining children that aided in the deaths of the boys. You can't make that make any damn sense, because people still thought the boys could possibly been alive. And there's nothing wrong with assuming that. But from the behavior of the adoptive parents, people naturally would think that they had done something and harmed the kids, because what are the odds of 2 children being abducted? Hell, maybe even sold for whatever reason. And the behaviors of them being not present thereafter, one interview with the news, strange. Now, for the bio mom seeking monies from the state, there are no words. She and that bio father, I don't understand you two. And I'm going to try my best to be very diplomatic during this live, but I have not been in a good mood. So if I get out of pocket, that's just quaint, because this is BS. KGET is the source for the information I'm about to play to you. Thank you for joining me.
Now, the biological mother of Classic and Sincere, known as Orrin and Orson West, is taking legal action against the county of Kern. The brothers were reported missing out of California City, but are now presumed dead. 17's Christian Galeno spoke with the mother's attorney and is in studio with more. Christian? Now, the biological mother has filed a claim in which she seeks $40 million from the Kern County Department of Human Services. The claim alleges the county's negligence contributed to their deaths, but their attorney says they are doing this so no other family has to go through this nightmare. More than a month after adopted parents Jacqueline and Trezell West were charged with the murders of Orrin and Orson West, the biological mother is seeking justice in court. The mother lost her kids, and the grandmother lost her grandchildren. So we feel like that is an egregious, situation. San Francisco-based attorney Joaquin McCoy filed the claim on April 6 on behalf of Ryan Dean, the biological mother. The claim alleges the department unlawfully took the children and placed them in danger. Dean tried to get her children returned and said she noticed differences after they started living with the Wests. And they basically denied the claim. McCoy says Kern County responded and denied the claim on April 19th. We have to get both the response back from Kern County and the state before we file our lawsuit. Dean's mother, Dana Moore, filed requests to have the boys placed with her. The Department of Human Services revoked Dean's parental rights and denied Moore's requests. And they just denied their ability to reunite with her family. Charles Pettis, the biological father of the boys, is suing the county and has a hearing scheduled next month. We have no interest in working with the other family at this time, and they have not, called us to try to work together. This family should not have gone through this. The foster system clearly failed here. And so that is really our main goal. Now, the claim is scheduled for discussion in closed session by the Board of Supervisors at tomorrow's meeting. Reporting in studio, Christian Galeno, 17 News.
All right, everybody. KGET is the source. Before I get into my commentary, I'm going to make one quick comment. Mr. McCoy, you're the attorney for Ryan Dean. Let me put a bug in your ear. Obviously, you haven't done your homework because her other two remaining children live with their fathers. So obviously, they found a way to get to safety and with relatives. So ask yourself why the two remaining older children of Ryan Dean, is a boy and a girl, are in the care of their biological fathers. So that means somebody stepped up when they saw the issue with the remaining boys. That is why they went in and got their children from Ryan Dean, and she gladly handed over her children, a boy and a girl. The oldest is a girl. The other one is a boy child, and they live with their fathers as I speak. So therefore, how is it that those two children are in the care with their fathers, and these two remaining children, who we now learn are deceased, got hoodwinked and bamboozled by the Department of Human Services? Think about what you're saying. Because obviously Ryan Dean and the grandmother have not informed you of that information of her other remaining children. So this is why I always tell people to stay focused on the details. I'm not going to read you the entire commentary pertaining to this lawsuit. Thank you for joining me. Yes, she should be ashamed of herself. Amen. KGET.com is the source, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Cal City boy's biological mother seeks legal action against Kern County. More than a month after adopted parents Jacqueline and Trezell West were charged with the murders of Orrin and Orson West, Ryan Dean, the biological mother of Classic and Sincere known as Orrin and Orson West, is taking legal action against the Kern County Department of Human Services. The mother lost her kids, the grandmother lost her grandchildren. We feel that is a egregious situation, said San Francisco-based attorney Joaquin McCoy, for those who need to know who the lawyer is, who filed the claim on April 6th on behalf of Ryan Dean, the biological mother. So go figure, April 6th, she has filed this claim, and the father, I believe, got information pertaining to the boys being dead months ago. I believe October, from the commentary I brought you. So you go from October till now. Why is Ryan Dean and her mother suing Kern County and also not working with the bio family? And you heard that from this attorney in this commentary. Why is that? We'll delve into that here shortly. The claim alleges the department unlawfully took the children and placed them in danger. Dean tried to get her children returned and said she noticed differences after they started living with the West. Dean's mother, Dana Moore, filed requests to have the boys placed with her. The Department of Human Services revoked Dean's parental rights and denied Moore's request. Dean and Moore are seeking $40 million from the county, but McCoy says they are doing this so no other family has to go through this nightmare. They basically denied the claim, said McCoy. We have to get both the response from the county and the state before we file a lawsuit. McCoy says Kern County responded and denied the claim on April 19th. So that would have been 13 days after McCoy and Dean and her mother filed an initial lawsuit. The state has responded. The brothers were reported missing out of Cal City, but are now presumed dead. Charles Pettis, the biological father of the boys, is suing the county and has a hearing scheduled next month. They just denied the ability to reunite them with their families, said McCoy. We have no interest in working with the other side of the family at this time, and they haven't reached out to us, quote unquote. The claim is scheduled for discussion in a closed session by the Board of Supervisors at Tuesday's meeting. Now, I don't know if that means today, because today is now considered Tuesday. This family shouldn't have gone through this, said McCoy. The foster system clearly failed here, and so that is really our main goal. KGET is the source. YouTube has the video in the queue that I just played. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thank you, mods on deck. God bless all of you. Hello, everybody in the chat. Let me start by my initial complaint. As I said, before I got this information from my mod about 30 minutes ago about the lawsuit, I had already wanted to do a video about the boys and the judicial system as far as the police not letting the public know that the children were already deceased from the information they got from the other children. I felt like they had due diligence to tell the public that the children were dead, even though they did not know where the bodies were. They had a right to tell people because people were still walking around thinking the children were alive. So why have the public assume the children could possibly be alive? You wait a year later, the district attorney, to come forward with an indictment of murder by Jacqueline and Trezell with the aid of a child, or they instructed a child rather. But you knew all along that the children were dead. See, I knew something wasn't right when the father came forward back in the fall of 21, talking about giving up DNA. First thing I said was, what's wrong with this story? Why would the father be giving up DNA? You only give up DNA if you found something pertaining to the children. So I always thought at that time that the children were found, but they didn't notify the public. But then my second thought was, well, that wouldn't make any sense. They know people are wondering where the children are. Why would they not tell the public where the children are? So now we learn they knew all along. Police, Cal City, Bakersfield, the district attorney, you knew all along that the children were dead. Somewhere out here in America, they're dead. Somewhere. And you refuse to tell the public this. I still feel like you had an obligation to tell the public, even though you were investigating these people, trying to get all your information on these people. And from my understanding, they still had legal rights to the children, Jacqueline and Trezell West, their remaining 4 children. I do not have information when the last time they had access to their children, but they had an attorney recently try to get rights to still see their children while they're now incarcerated in a Bakersfield County jail. Nothing makes any sense. Now here comes this heathen and her mama wanting to sue the Department of Human Services. I can't even talk. This is bullshit. Where were you, grandmother? Where were you all when the children were in foster care? Where was the lawsuit then? Why are you just now suing the state of California? Why didn't you bring forth a lawsuit when the children were looking and acting funny with the West, Brian Dean? This makes no sense. Same thing for Mr. Pettis. You all had ample enough time to bring forth a lawsuit to the state when you still allegedly had access to the kids. And I'd like a damn receipt to when you still had access to the kids before your rights were revoked. Number 2, why were your rights revoked, Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis? Mr. Pettis, why didn't you or your mother get the children? Number 3, Miss Moore, why were you denied? Because I know damn well if you sought rights, the state gave you a reason why you couldn't get the kids back. Same thing if Mr. Pettis filed paperwork to get the children. They would have given you a reason why. They would have given you a reason to comply and appeal. All parties, Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis, Miss Moore, and Mr. Pettis' mother. I find it funny that this lawyer says on behalf of Ryan Dean and Miss Moore that they're not working with Mr. Pettis and his side of the family. Why not? And as someone kindly told me in my video last month or 2 months ago, whatever, that he wasn't suing her. Well, this is how I look at it. When it said on the paperwork, basically, she's just a witness to the lawsuit, that was funny business right there. Why would she not be a willing participant on the lawsuit with Mr. Pettis if she's the biological mother? Which I found that strange. So you're basically telling me Mr. Pettis decided months ago to seek a lawyer of his own from LA without consulting with Ryan Dean, and she's the damn mother. Don't you all think that going into court, because you all are awfully very dizzy and not very bright, that it will look strange, a father seeking restitution from the state without compliance from the biological mother? A judge would ask, well, sir, where is the biological mother? Why is she not on this lawsuit since you two were together at the time of your children's removal from her care? And mind you, for those who do not keep up with the story and think you know everything about this story, the children were removed 1 year apart from each other because the boy children are a year apart in age. They are not biological twins. So therefore, explain logically to the general public, for those of you all, this family that thinks we're dodo birds, why is it that the children were removed out of Miss Dean's care 1 year apart from each other? You got one child taken at a couple of months old, and then you were knocked up pregnant again, and then that child was removed immediately after you gave birth and put into the NICU unit, where the child allegedly sat in there for a couple of weeks without the care from Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis, Miss Mora, and Mr. Pettis' mother, and any outside relatives. See, that's the part of the story you all refuse to tell the public and other YouTube creators that rally behind you all. Tell the part where there was nobody in the hospital with a baby that was in the NICU unit without a mother's touch, a father's touch, a grandmother's touch. Nobody to hold the baby's hand so the baby could feel the warmth of a family member. You forgot to tell that part of the story. You forgot to tell everybody that there are 2 other living children that came out of the womb of Ryan Dean that are now in the custody of their bio fathers when you want to say the state failed the boys. Well, what happened to the older children who are alive and breathing and with their bio fathers? And Ryan Dean gave them legal custody of those said children. And to my knowledge, Miss Dean, you still haven't done your part with the remaining children that are alive. You sporadically call and visit the children, from my understanding. And these people have no reason to lie about that, because a boy child and a girl child will want the comfort of their mother. And I can't see in a day and time like this, somebody would not give you access to your children who are alive and well. So you see, the story is deeper than just Cal City boys. She has 2 remaining children, older children, who do not get the love and care they need, financial aid from Ryan Dean. So go run, tell that. And where were you other relatives when these children were infants? Let's keep this live 100. Where were you all when the children needed somebody to take them in, since the grandparents couldn't get the children, Mr. Pettis couldn't get the child, Ryan Dean got a rights revoked? Well, then where the hell were you all when the children needed somebody? So you want to put all the blame on the state? The state is not a mind reader. It is to pray and hope the children will get a better life with the next family, but there are no guarantees when you're dealing with the human mind. So you all have got to get off of this soapbox of the state made a mistake. Now, I want you to put it to where it's due. The biological parents had a right to fight for the damn babies, but you didn't, and that means the state had a reason to take your damn kids. And the fact you don't got your other two should tell everybody something in the amen choir stand that is a little slow. Why you ain't got your other two kids? So I guess the state, they had fought for that, right? You don't want to talk about that. That you got two other living children you don't even fool with. If you do, it's sporadic. Talk about that when you talk about Cal City. You're going to tell it all. So I can't wait to see what your lawyer going to tell the general public. How is it the other biological fathers of your children have their two children? But these two boys got lost in the DHS shuffle. See, nobody wants to talk about the other two children. That's a touchy subject because a lot of you didn't even know she had two other children. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. What the hell happened with not letting the public know? Bakersfield Police Department and the district attorney, why did you not let the public know the children were deemed dead a year ago? And why is this bio mother now seeking restitution, she and her mother, when they had ample enough time to file a lawsuit years ago with the Department of Human Services? She and Mr. Pettis both. Where were the biological family members years ago when the children were in the state's care? Why are you all now deciding to file lawsuits? Why are you two not working together and you are the biological parents of the boys? I find that very strange. Where were you all in the past year when you ducked off and fell off? You ran to the news and did 2 or 3 interviews, then you fell off, Ms. Ryan Dean. Where were you in the past year? And I think you would have never came forward with this lawsuit had Mr. Pettis not filed a lawsuit. So what I'm seeing and smelling here is tit for tat, which is petty and very dishonorable to the boys. Nobody has seen or heard from you. When they were out there searching for your children out there in that damn desert, March, April, where were you? No signs of you. Standing on the sidelines to see what they were looking for out there. You or Mr. Pettis, your mama and his mama, where were you then? So we go from winter, spring, summer, fall, voila, Mr. Pettis comes up doing an interview. Now, how strange is that? You people ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Nobody knew that Jacqueline and Giselle would be trifling people to aid their children in murdering these boys. But you do not get a free pass to just jump up and decide to hire lawyers to sue the state for you being negligent with your children. Because in the end, you had those kids before Jacqueline and Giselle. You had those kids before they entered the foster care system. So you need to own responsibility that whatever you did not do, that is the reasons the state severed your rights. And we know that the state severed your rights for various reasons. The first child, leg was cracked, the femur. And you can't break the femur unless you've been beat, pulled, stomped on, fell out of a window, dragged. Whether you're a baby or you're an adult, it is the hardest bone to break in the body. Rondine, did your lawyer not know that? That the femur is the hardest bone in the body to break, for those that didn't know medical terminology. Did you not know that either, Mr. Patterson, your mama? Did you not know that? Number 2, the second baby that was removed when she miraculously got pregnant while the first baby was taken. The baby had non-functioning lungs, which means you were imbibing alcoholic beverages and marijuana and smoking products to why your baby couldn't function to breathe on its own. And put in the state's care, baby number 2. So while one's already in the state's care, you're pregnant again with baby number 2 who gets immediately removed from your care. Please explain to the courts, the court of everyday shenanigans, why you had 2 children removed a year apart, and why you didn't have your first one back in your care when your second one was removed. I'll wait. Who gets knocked up? Baby number 4 when their baby's been removed a year before. Why would you get pregnant again to get your baby taken? This makes no sense. I got a baby that's been taken, and then I'm going to get pregnant again months later. And then you go 9 months, and then that baby gets taken. But you want to come out now, years later, and say the state made a mistake. No, heifer, you made a mistake. You and Mr. Pettis. Because what the hell were you all doing all this time while you were making all these damn babies? You can't explain it logically because you know logically it won't make any sense to anybody that's woke. You all have been singing and dancing around these boys and not really telling the whole truth. And that's why some of you got your panties in a knot when the source came to me last year to tell me the truth pertaining to the children. That you were never a decent mother to 4 of your children. Not just the baby boys, but all 4 of your children. Your children have different fathers. You laid up with different men and made different babies with no regard for the welfare of your children. You and these baby daddies, the last ones did not do a good job with the children. That's on God. That ain't got nothing to do with DHS. And the fact that people want to come out at the last minute hollering and screaming about supporting for these babies, well, where were you when the children needed somebody to take them in so they wouldn't be formally placed in foster care and adopted? How are you going to keep blaming the state when all of you relatives are jumping out of helicopters and planes talking about justice for the boys? Well, where the hell were you when they needed somewhere to stay? Folks going on the news talking about they got 9 kids. Why the hell you getting ready to watch somebody else's 2 children and you got 9? And you want somebody to believe you can sit here and watch 9 children day for day, eye for eye. There's no way humanly possible. You can watch 9 children. You ain't getting ready to watch 3 children simultaneously. Miss me with that BS. All of you all are a joke out there. Because you're trying to portray an image to the public that you've been concerned about these children and in the lives of these children when we know otherwise. It's common sense. You couldn't have been in the children's lives because had you been in their lives, we wouldn't be talking about the boys. This would be a non-existent storyline. You never were there for the children. Obviously, you were not close to Ryan Dean or Mr. Pettis for them to tell you and confide in you that the state had taken their children. Why not tell one of you relatives, hey, we can't get the kids back. Hey, can somebody go in and try to fight for the children? Mr. Pettis, Ryan Dean, why don't you tell the public that you all posted pictures to Facebook? Ryan Dean did a year ago with you all holding the children in the state's care. And they were babies then. So you're sitting here talking about the children were acting funny coming from the West. Well, there's pictures on Facebook where they were infants. So how would they have been acting funny as infants when they couldn't even talk? Nah, baby, I ain't cruel. I'm the realest on the block. I keeps it 100. So you all want to fall in on a half-baked story. You don't want to accept the fact that these people didn't do their job with these children. Now they want to sue the state. Nobody knew that these people were cruel people. Jacqueline and Giselle West. I can't in my right mind think the state would willingly give these kids to some people in foster care knowing they were not capable mentally to rear the children properly. That's the bottom line. Why did the police and the district attorney not notify the public a year ago that the children were dead? And what is this funny business of Ryan Dean and Mr. Pettis and their mothers suing the state now for restitution, you all don't have the right to sue anybody for any money because you had an opportunity to get your children, and for whatever reason, you did not comply with the state of California. And you didn't even file a lawsuit years ago, which shows to me you're just doing this now because you found out the children were missing out of Jacqueline and Drizelle's care. But where was the lawsuit when the babies were infants? When you had the opportunity to bring forth a lawsuit to the state? Why are you just now coming out, wanting to sue? Because, see, this is the business. Jacqueline and Drizelle had those children probably a year before adopting them. So where was the lawsuit then when you say, oh, when I was visiting with the kids, they were acting strange? Well, then why didn't you say something to the supervisors? Why didn't you ask for a hearing? Why didn't you go get a lawyer then? That's years ago. You find out now that the children are missing, possibly dead, so the biological father goes get a lawyer. Now you come jump on and sign on months later with you a lawyer. And neither one of you are working together, which I find very peculiar. But for those that think this is cruel commentary, no, baby, that's cruel. Two parents going to the state, trying to go toe-to-toe with the state, but not even working together. You don't find that strange? You don't find that peculiar and odd? Okay. Yeah, all right. Thank you, Crystal. I'm not worried about nobody's opinion because I know everything I need to know. I don't have to know every dirty detail pertaining to the children and the bio parents. I know enough to know out of common sense the state didn't just take those children. And the fact that she has two other living children that she is not raising and not doing her job to help take care of those children, that tells me everything I need to know. So I'm not about to sit here and put any blame on the Department of Human Services of California because this woman has two other children with two other men. And they have those children. So you can't say the state didn't do their job. That's bullshit. If you'd like to join the panel, hit the link. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to the channel, $BigAngie, 129 Cash App. All super chats are welcome during this live. Thank you so very much. Yes, Tracy, exactly. Why not report to the police? Well, you can't report to the police because they weren't in her care, but she should have said something to the state. If she was still in the running for having her rights, if you had rights to your children and you were visiting with your children while they were in foster care with whomever they were living with, you felt like the children didn't act right, sing right, then you should have said something to a supervisor. Fonda, yes. You haven't heard anything from Rondine's mother all this time. So let's talk to the grandparents. Where have you all been all this time while local news stations have been reporting that the children have been missing? Why is it all of a sudden now everybody got their mama on a lawsuit? Mr. Pettis got his mama on a lawsuit. Now Rondine got her mama on a lawsuit. But ain't nobody heard nothing from your mammy and daddy while the children were missing. Never spoke before the news, never gave a news interview, never told the news, yeah, by the way, I filed to get custody of the children, but they denied me for some reason. Don't you think people would mind hearing the truth if this is allegedly the truth? Why are you just now coming out a year later to say, oh, I tried to get the kids, but the state wouldn't give me the kids? You know why the state didn't give you, Miss Moore, those children? Because probably they found something in your background not worthy to give you the children, and or they didn't want you having the kids because of the fact you are in close relations to Ryan Dean, and they didn't want the possibility of you all letting Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis, have access to the children to have some more nasty accidents, if you get my drift. You know, my thing is this. You're leaving your babies with every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Let's say somebody else broke the baby's leg. You're leaving your children with all types of people because you didn't keep a place to live. Yeah, you forgot to tell that part. Who's to say that if one of your relatives got custody of the children, an arm wouldn't have ended up broken? Hell, how about a whole damn baby's neck? How about that? See, that's what they don't want you all to know. Is that Ryan Dean was never fit. That's why she don't have her children. That's why the children are now deemed dead. Because you all didn't do your part with your kids. And you had ample enough time to sue the state years ago. So now you want to come out and say, oh, I saw some stuff that was wrong with my babies. Well, why are you just now suing the state then? You didn't sue the state years ago. You didn't say, no, something wrong with my kids. I got to get an appeal. I got to show these people something's wrong with my children. You didn't comply with whatever they asked you to do, Ryan Dean, Mr. Pattis. That's the bottom line. Stop with this funny business. Trying to act like the state wronged you in taking your children. And as the woman who works with the Department of Human Services said in an interview last year, we don't want your children. We have too many children to take care of in the state of California. What are we supposed to do with your kids when we don't have anywhere to put your kids because you lost custody of your kids? So you all want people to think the social workers and the supervisors are walking around chanting in a circle at night, trying to find sacrificial lambs and stealing babies out of projects and low-income housing to do what with them? To do what with them exactly? The lady told it. We don't have anywhere to house the children we got. So we want to reunify them with their biological parents. We don't want to keep the children. We do our best to work with the parents, but they have to do their part in order to get their children back. So stop blaming the state of California, because you can't logically explain why you have two other children who ain't in the state's care. So explain that to the general public. Since California got it wrong, then why are your other two children with their biological fathers? I'll wait. You can run that hee-haw talk out there in California, but down here in East Tennessee, baby, Queen woke. And some other people are woke. And when they got the gist of the whole story, they smelled a rat and they knew something was wrong. Turn your devices on, Margaret. You all ought to be ashamed of yourselves, trying to blame the state. State's not at fault. Margaret E., how are you?
Hey, Queen.
Thank you for joining me, finally. What's going on, baby?
I know, right? I've been with you since day one.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I love you. Thank you so much.
I love
Run
you
it down,
too.
baby.
But listen, I had to get on this live because this is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. When she was in those trap houses and everything else and
Yes.
not going to anything that was about her kids. Now, how long after she's trying to sue
Years.
for $40 million?
Years.
And then the part that got me was the grandmother is saying that she tried to get custody. But my thing is, obviously, there was something wrong why the state didn't give her custody.
Exactly.
Like these people, like everybody is just killing me with these lawsuits, ridiculous lawsuits. For what reason? And like I had written in the chat, like what lawyer in their right mind would even take on this case?
When they already know that you can't win against the state. Everybody knows rarely will you get any money from the state, because that means somebody's going to have to talk and tell somebody did something frivolous as a state worker supervisor and not did their part. And it's not to say that all workers are perfect or that the supervisors are perfect, don't make mistakes. Anybody with sense knows better. You understand? Right. We know that everybody falls short. But what I'm saying is, naturally, you are going to have to prove that the state dropped the ball in giving you your children back. You're talking about two separate children.
Exactly. It's not like they were taken at the
same time.
Right.
At the same time.
Right. And that's why I put down in the comments when
Go ahead, Margaret. Oh, she fell out. Hold on a minute. Somebody in the chat is saying 2 older stepchildren lived with Ryan at that time when they took the boys. Well, I don't know anything about that, but that's the whole point. Why would other children be still able to live in a household with somebody that you just took children from?
Exactly.
Well, what some of you need to know is that she was hiding those kids out when they were Obviously, when the state came looking, that's why the older two children aren't in the state's care. Stay woke.
Right, right. Like I like not
Margaret. Margaret's breaking up.
I
Margaret,
had
you have to get
okay.
closer to your router, baby.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay. I was saying that not just with this case, but with other cases too that you've been making comments about. I
Yes,
really wish that people would look in the mirror and look at who they're backing up and the
yes,
reason why.
yes,
Because to me, God knows I'm not supposed to judge, but
yes,
to me, there must be something wrong with you if you're
yes,
supporting
yeah,
different situations.
yes.
And you know, normally, Queen, I just sit back and listen
Well,
to
I'm
you
glad you
chat.
spoke. I'm glad you spoke
But
because
listen, I could not sit here any
well,
longer.
I
I was like,
appreciate that. I
no,
appreciate that because I think a lot of people are very green, and I think a lot of people root for the underdog because they are the underdog. That's why you see
exactly.
people rooting for the just like with the Mets in in Rogersville. You're rooting for
Right.
these people because you have a like mind like them. You've lived a similar life
Exactly.
like them. You've been in trouble with the law. You've gotten high on drugs. You smoked marijuana. You got turned up.
Exactly.
The kids came and went with this one and that one and Tom and Dick and Harry and all type of allegations came against you because you're like them. Because nobody in their logical mind, with or without children, would rally for people and think the state just came two separate times and took two kids. That don't even make logical sense.
Exactly. 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 It's just crazy.
They're despicable, man.
And this is
They're
not the
despicable.
first this is not the first time that like I've been reading chats and you're talking about situations and people are like against you. Like
I don't
t-
care what nobody thinks
tonight
about my opinion.
tonight tonight I
I root
had
on
to hit
common
the
sense.
StreamYard. I had to hit the StreamYard tonight because
I
I'm
don't care
like,
nothing
I'm
about
sick and
what
tired of
some
this.
gangster keyboarder says. You can't explain logically two children removed a year apart. That has nothing to do with
Exactly.
Angela. That has nothing to do with Angela. That doesn't even have anything to
Exactly.
do with the Department of Human Services. Really?
Exactly. Exactly. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So this is
It's sickening. Hit the link if you have an opinion pertaining to this dirty business coming out of California. Ryan Dean, the biological mother of the boys, who have now been deemed deceased, is suing the state for $40 million. She and her mother, Miss Moore. Where have these participants been in the lives of children before they were fostered and or adopted by Jacqueline and Giselle West? Why are these people now bringing forth a lawsuit against the state? And two, my main subject is the police and the district attorney. Why are you all just now telling us that the children were dead? I find that very
right,
odd and strange.
right,
Let's talk about
right,
that. Why do you think they waited a year to tell us that the
right,
children are dead?
right, right. And Queen, you know that saying that we grew up with when people say it takes a village to raise
Yes.
a child.
Yes, it
When
does.
when this situation first happened,
Mhm.
we didn't see a whole bunch of friends and family members except for, the ones that were
The first day they did the interview, when they was all hollering and cussing at Jacqueline, that's the only time we saw them.
exactly. And my thing is,
Off.
you wouldn't have had to have you wouldn't have had your kids taken if you had a support system in which the
Exactly.
uh
That's
the
a major point. That's a major
exact
point. Exactly.
right,
Where was everybody before anybody got the right severed?
exactly,
Where are all these relatives before the children were formally placed
right,
with the state? When the state went and sought rights to the children, because it is a process. They don't just go get the rights to the children 2 days later, 1 month later. They don't even get it 6 months later.
exactly,
It takes about a year or so before the state will file rights for the children. And they only file rights if the parents didn't comply with
right.
trying to get the children back. That's common
That
sense.
is that is the other issue. Exactly. That's the part that I think that people are forgetting. It's not like they just gave them a month and then
It
snatched
doesn't work
their
like that.
children.
Yeah,
No.
there's pictures of her she posted on Facebook, Marge, with Mr. Pettis, he's holding the babies. One of them was an infant. So when she says,
Mm.
oh, they were acting funny with the West, they wasn't even with the West when they were infants.
Right. Right.
I'm talking about when
Right.
they couldn't walk.
Right.
So that's
Right.
bullshit.
And understand me, I am not riding with uh, Jacqueline and Trizelle either, but we're talking about this lawsuit. This is
Yes,
like
the lawsuit.
ridiculous. This is like ridiculous.
Yes. Marge. Marge's reception is bad.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, your reception is bad. You're going to have to go somewhere where you can speak, baby.
Okay. Yeah, because it's blinking. Let me drop down.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Thank you, babe.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you, Margaret Eve.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sweetheart. Yes, my thing is this, you're entitled to your opinion pertaining to these bio donors. I don't really care what you all think about them. I don't care. This is a commentary channel. I give my opinion, and my opinion stands on logic and common sense. The state is not just going to go into your house and take your children. The state has millions of people working for them, supervisors, social workers, overworked, understaffed. Why are they just walking around banging on people's doors to take people's children? It is not to say that people cannot have their children taken by mistake, but you can't explain it two times, two separate times. And also you have two other children that you don't have custody of either. See, it'd be different if she had her other two children and one of the boys got taken. Somebody might be able to say, well, it was unfair. They didn't do due diligence to state. But you had a total of 4 children, allegedly. And the 2 older children's fathers stepped in to get their children out of your custody when they heard the state was trying to remove those baby boys. They knew the bang was coming. That's why you gave the fathers the children, the boy and the girl. Why don't you tell that, Ryan Dean? Why don't you tell the public the truth? That you have 2 older children that live with their biological fathers. So how is it that the state messed up when those 2 children are not in the state's care? And they were not removed by the state, because I believe you were probably hiding them out so the state wouldn't get them. Because the state had to have asked, well, where are your other 2 children, ma'am? You have a total of 4 children, ma'am. Where are they, ma'am? You want me to believe one child gets a cracked femur, the state stepped in and didn't ask you where your other 2 children were? So what did you tell them? Then you get knocked up and pregnant a year later, and that baby is removed immediately from your care at birth. But you want to sit here and now sue the state of California for wrongdoing of taking your 2 boys out of your care. And the state came into your life 2 separate times a year apart. So how is that the state's fault? And where were you relatives when the state was running in and out of Ryan Dean's business with these babies, since the state got it wrong? So you want me to believe what? The doctors lied about baby number 2 being in the NICU unit and he couldn't breathe on his own. The baby had non-functioning lungs, Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis. Why don't you tell the public that, for those that think they know every damn thing about this storyline? Why don't you tell the public that you were chiefing and getting high and drunk carrying your baby? And that's why your baby couldn't breathe on his own when he came here. And he laid up in that NICU unit without you, your mama, Mr. Pettis, his mama, and any of these other people who've been rallying for the children. Where were you when the baby laid up in the NICU unit? Since the state wronged you. So if the state wronged you, seems like to me you've been up there in the hospital by your baby to show I love my child. I made a mistake, but I love my child. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get my child. So explain that logically. I'll wait. Since so many people think they know the story, nobody's saying that Jacqueline and Giselle are not at fault. That's not the subject. The subject is two vessels suing the state when they willingly got their children taken a year or so apart and didn't comply with the rules and regulations to get the children back. And now you want to hoop and holler and act like you care about your kids when we haven't even seen your face in over a year. So where have you been all this time to now bring forth a lawyer to try to sue on your behalf against the state of California? You've been nowhere around to where people even knew that you existed after last winter. It's just been Mr. Pettis' cousin, Roro. That's the only person most people have seen pertaining to relatives pertaining to the boys. So where have you been? And why aren't you two working together? I find that strange. You're both the biological parents of the boys, but you're not working together, says your lawyer. We're not working with them at this time, and they have not reached out to us. Why is that? Why did Mr. Pettis go get a lawyer and not consult with you? I assume he consulted with you, and you just didn't want to be on a lawsuit because you knew you were wrong in getting your kids gone. And I'm trying to understand why he couldn't get the children. So, Mr. Pettis, what kind of life have you had that you couldn't get your children? We're going to get off of Ryan Dean now. We're going to go to Mr. Pettis. Why did you not get your children back? Allegedly, in the articles, you were in a relationship with her when the children were taken. So, Mr. Pettis, why did you not get your children? Why didn't your mother get the children? Why did her mother not get the children, Miss Moore? Ryan Dean, where was your father at? Since he liked going to people's inboxes, threatening people. I haven't heard one thing from him to the general public since this story started. None of you. Except for Mr. Pettis' cousin, Miss Roro. That's the only person I've heard from speaking on behalf of the children. So we can ask Miss Roro too. Well, where were you when the children needed a place to stay? Why didn't you get the kids? Somebody said allegedly you didn't know that the children were in dire need. Well, if you were close to your cousin, you would have known that. But Angela, she don't know what she's talking about. You see, I deal in logic. I don't deal in all that he said, she said, gossip. I don't deal in all that street talk lingo, because that stuff doesn't really mean anything. That's the reason why the children are not alive now, because they were in the care of street people. And that is the reason why a little white girl is missing out of Rogersville, Tennessee, because she was born to street people, she and her brothers. And you see how that story ended up for those that think the queen don't know anything. Why are her brothers in foster care? Stay woke. See, people don't really want to tell you the truth that they're unfit. And they didn't do what they need to do to get their kids back. So we can say the same for Summer Wells. Why are her boys still, her brothers in foster care? Why haven't her parents got the children back? Why is her father locked up? Because he don't know how to act right. It's the same game. The game is the same. White, black, Mexican, Jew, Arab, they're all unfit. They don't care. See, you can respect a person that can tell the state, I can't take care of my kid, or I'm not fit to take care of my kid. You all weren't fit, and you just didn't even say, hey, can somebody help me with these children? So I want to know, where were your parents and relatives when you lost the custody? When the state first intervened with allegations of neglect, abuse, where were your relatives then? Why are you mangy black folks wanting to sue the state of California years after the children have been adopted and now dead? How is this justice for these children? It is not. You all ought to be ashamed of yourselves, because you're the reasons the children got in foster care to be with the West in the first place. In no way the state could be mind readers to know that Jacqueline and Giselle would be heinous people to beat their children and aid their kids to beat the children to death. How would they know that? How would the state know these people are like that? Nobody knew that. Nobody knew. Because I would hope that if somebody saw something peculiar with the West and the children, they would have came forward and told the state, hey, you need to check this family out. They're abusing these kids. But nobody saw them, I believe. I believe they were recluses with all of their children. They kept their children inside, so nobody would know what's going on except somebody that could hear through the wall. Stop blaming the state of California. A lot of you have a bad reputation of blaming the police. If it ain't the state, it's the police. It's the government. It's always somebody else's fault. Never the person who had access to do right. Where were you when the children needed parents? That's the bottom line. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, Tracy. Those people weren't a family unit. Because if so, somebody else in the family could have stepped up and got the kids. It's BS. All those people standing outside that tree when they first interviewed Jacqueline and Giselle West, there should have been somebody in that family that could have stepped up and got those kids. So I don't want to hear it. You people ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Just making excuses. If you'd like to give your opinion pertaining to this news coming out of Bakersfield, California, that the bio mother of the West children seeking damages from the state of California, she and her mother. And she and her mother are not in compliance with the current lawsuit by Mr. Pettis, the father of the children, the alleged father of the boys. And one would have to ask themselves, why are these two not in conjunction in a conducive lawsuit? Why are you two filing two separate lawsuits, but you both were together when you had the children? Find that strange, and the judge is going to find that strange, that you all wouldn't be in a joined lawsuit together. But see, you all don't think about things like that because you're ignorant and you're uneducated. Like I said, the very reason why you don't have your children is because you're bottom feeders and you're uneducated and you're ghetto. Fabulous. Because only thing you cared about at that time was being in the street and living a street person's life, sleeping from couch to couch. Yes, that's what was said about you, Ryan Dean. You slept around from place to place and obviously slept around with different men to have children with different men. A young woman with different baby daddies. We're going to keep it real. It's undignified. Birth control's free in most state health departments. So there was no reason for you not to use birth control when you realized you couldn't take care of 1, 2, 3, 4 children. And your children have different fathers, but two are with two different baby daddies now. So how are you going to say to a judge, the state got it wrong? Because the judge is going to ask you all those questions. Well, where are your other children? Oh, they're with their baby's fathers. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, how did the state get it wrong with your last two? How did the state get it wrong with these two, but not the other two? The state didn't take your older children, ma'am? Oh, no, they didn't. Well, why not? Well, where were they when they came and scooped up baby one, then baby two? Oh, I hid them out. Is that what you're going to tell the judge? Where your older two children were when the state had to have been looking for those children, boy and a girl? Because that's the questions that a judge is going to ask. It's what a jury will ask. See, you all aren't bright out there. You're thinking about dollar signs, but you're not thinking of the logistics of a lawsuit and what the state will bring forward against you in a court of law. Everything you ever did and was accused of, every allegation brought forward on a piece of paper with a receipt will be brought forth by the state. So all that's going to come out in court. You sure you want everybody to know the real truth to why you lost your kids? Because you forgot that part of the lawsuit. All the information and dealings with the state of California will be revealed in a court of law. So if you thought people were gossiping about you last year and now, what do you think they're going to say when they find out the whole truth of all allegations and abuse? Hospital records, documentations by the state, medical doctors, ER doctors. How long your child laid up in the NIC unit, baby number 2, without any relative being up there with the baby. How are you going to explain that to a judge and 12 members of a jury? That's going to probably come out even in court with Jacqueline and Giselle West when they go to court. You think their lawyer is not going to go dig up everything? Even though we know these two are wrong for what they did to the children, but nonetheless, everything will come out. And I don't think you all have thought about that because you're too busy trying to get money off of shit you did wrong to your own damn kids. And you want to sit up here and play crazy like it's okay what you're doing, trying to milk the state for money because you were negligent of your own children. So when did the state start giving you money because you didn't want to raise your kid and do what you need to do to get your kids back? How is that right? This is sick. And I am finding fault with the district attorney's office and the police because I'd like to know why you all didn't tell the general public you knew the children were dead. That information came out from the district attorney's own mouth when she gave the press conference with the said charges against Jacqueline and Giselle West. They knew 1 week after the case was handed over, a week later, to Bakersfield, California, from Cal City, that the children were dead. So that means the children told what happened in that house apartment, which is soever. So why did you all not tell the general public, hey, we believe the children are dead. This is still an ongoing investigation until we can find the children. So then one is going to also ask, when was the last time Jacqueline and Giselle West had access to their children? Because what's going to be jacked up, you go into court and people find out that Jacqueline and Giselle saw their children recently before being arrested. How in the hell would that have been right? For them to have access to their remaining children when you knew that the boys were dead? What the hell is going on out here? Something is terribly wrong with this case. And I always thought the case was off even last year. All these crazy people jumping off of bandwagons and helicopters, rallying for these sick-ass bio parents, acting like they know the whole story about these kids in foster care when they didn't know nothing. Now we find out the children are deemed dead and nobody told the public. So people walking around here thinking the children are still alive, possibly. And I don't think that was fair to the public. Why would you let people think the children could possibly be alive? You had due diligence to tell the public that you believe the children are deceased. That way it would stop any rumors of the children being trafficked, sold. You could have dispelled all that he said, she said a year ago, but you did not. So that makes no sense to me, especially when people wanting to be internet sleuths and meddle in cases and call with fake sightings of children, missing people. You could have stopped all of that when you found out the children or child aided in the deaths of the boys. But you didn't. And then the father comes out, the bio father, in the fall of 21 with an interview. So I knew something was up then because I said, well, why is he just now coming out speaking? We haven't heard from him since the children went missing. And he comes out September, October of 21. The next thing we know, we hear he's got an attorney. The district attorney, they're asking him for DNA. And I thought, well, why would they need DNA unless they found the children or evidence to the children? And then we later found out the first of this year, oh, children are dead. Don't know where they are, but they're dead. Commentary via the remaining child children belonging to Jacqueline and Giselle West. That's jacked up. That's very jacked up. I don't know. Quiet. I don't know. Right, Cynthia. Still paying for the billboards. Exactly. You should have told the public. Nobody can tell me that what I'm saying is wrong, because that's illogical to have evidence that the children are dead, whether you are still investigating the parents or suspects. If you believe the children are dead, you should have told the public that a year ago. That way you could dispel all rumors that the children could possibly be alive. So you're sitting here and you still had to have been hearing people call in, sending in tips that the children were over here or over there. It's crazy to me. Now here come these two mangy ass bio donors wanting to sue the state. This case is off. And I never wanted to knock law enforcement and their job with this case. Same thing with Summer Wells. But to hear this now a year later and really processing the situation, you all dropped the ball with this one. There's no reason that you should not have notified the public that you believe the children are dead. You should have told the public. You had a right to tell the public. Whether you're still investigating or not, had evidence against the parents or not, it doesn't matter. You still should have told the public. And now one's going to wonder, as I just said, when did Jacqueline and Giselle last see their remaining children? Because you just went to court to block them from having access to the remaining children. So now people are going to ask, well, when did they last see the kids? Because you mean to tell me that you knew that the children were dead last year and you all still didn't tell the state that you believe the children are dead, and you still let Jacqueline and Giselle West see their remaining children? Does that make any damn sense? You just think about that for a second. When you got evidence, eyewitness testimony from the children that one or two or more aided the deaths of the babies, please tell me you didn't think to go to the state of California and say, Jacqueline and Giselle West do not need to have access to their remaining children because we believe those babies are dead. Because if it goes to court and it comes out that the West had access to those children when you all knew that the babies were dead, how's that going to look? This is a mess. That was my general complaint as of yesterday, before I got information about this $40 million lawsuit. I told myself I wanted to do a live pertaining to the police and the district attorney's obligation to the public about the boys being dead, because that sounded crazy. And a lot of people probably didn't really register what the district attorney was saying because they were just so glad to get some kind of information about, the rest of these adoptive parents, that people really didn't listen to what she was saying. So I've had time to sit and think about what she has said, the district attorney. You just told us you knew the boys were dead a year ago, but you never told anybody. So how was that right? So I think some of you need to process that. People still probably calling in tips, as someone said in the chat, paying for billboards for the children, which naturally we still want them, the remains recovered. But still it would have been proper to tell the public the children are believed to be deceased. We have information alluding to the fact that they are no longer alive. We cannot reveal that said information because we're still investigating the case. That's all you had to say. And then when you had enough information to bring forth an indictment against Jacqueline and Giselle West, you could have done so like you did this year. But this is a very jacked up case of street people. And this is the reason why you have such gossip pertaining to missing children, dead children. It's because they came from street people. And when you have children born of street people, you're going to get a lot of he said, she said, gossip, innuendos, because the people weren't right that brought the children here in the first place. And that's what you got with Cal City. That's what you got now with Summer Wells. That's what you got with Camille McKinney. Street people. They bring all that gossip and he said, she said. Because if they were decent people, 9 times out of 10, the children would have never went missing in the first place. Let's just keep it real. Thousands of people have children. Their children aren't missing. The children aren't abducted. They haven't been accused of abuse, chiefing and smoking and getting drunk and turned up while the baby's still in the womb, leaving their kids with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, not keeping a place, a job, a car, money to take care of the children. Everybody doesn't live like that. And that's what people need to understand. That all races F up that raise children. But the responsible thing to do is say, I can't do the job. Not keep your kids and then get people to start calling on you, saying you're not doing right by your kids. Or your child has an accident, and then the doctor calls the police in the state to say, hey, I believe this child was physically harmed by someone. And then the state intervenes and removes your children. I believe these children didn't have a proper upbringing in the care of Ryan Dean. And sadly, 2 were removed by the state less than a year apart and went into foster care to later die in the care of Jacqueline and Giselle West. And fortunately, the older 2 children of Ryan Dean, their father stepped in to take care of them. And by the grace of God, they were able to take care of their children, because imagine had the older children not had relatives who cared, they also would have been wards of the state. See, you all don't think about that. This female machine had a total of 4 kids, different fathers. And when the babies got out of her care, those older children's fathers decided to step in to get their said children. But as I said, imagine had those children not had bio fathers to step in, they too would have been wards of the state, like the babies. The truth has not been told pertaining to the West children. And many of you don't want to accept the fact that you don't know the bio donors. You don't know anything about them. You don't know anything about their plight in life. You don't know anything about the case itself, to how the children got in foster care. You didn't know that the woman had other children. And obviously he has other children. So where are his other children? Where are those baby mothers? Why do you have all these children out of wedlock and you're not married to any of the baby's mothers? See, those are the things that people should be asking questions about. Why are all these young people having all these damn kids out of wedlock? Why are you laying up with different men, having children, and not married to one baby's father? Why are you, a male, making children out here and not married to one baby's mother? Why not? They're good enough to have sex with, but they're not good enough to marry. See, this is just a dirty game, this baby making business. For whatever reason, you're out here just screwing people, making children, leaving them with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, sister, cousin, mama, auntie. Somebody cracks a baby leg. Nobody wants to take responsibility. Your kid gets taken. You don't do what you have to do to get the kid back. You have another baby, and then that child's taken. And now years later, you want to hoop and holler and say the state wronged you. How is that possible when you have 2 other children that are not in the state's care? Make it make sense. Quiet, please, enough. There's still no reason to have children deceased. You have willing information that they're deceased and not notify the public. Whether you're investigating or not, and don't have enough information, at some point they should have told the public the kids are deceased. That's just too long to go having knowledge that children are dead and not tell the public. I'm not going to hold you all because I'm tired of talking about these people, these street people. I was sitting there thinking about that the past couple of days, just reflecting on things in general. that I don't care to talk about street people because, one, I don't care to deal with them in my own personal life. And I get tired of talking about them on the network. I get tired of the innuendos, the speculations, the he said, the she said, because in the end, it's all BS with these kids. And that's what some of you don't seem to understand, that these children didn't have no business with these people. For people to come up with all these wild stories, false tips, leads to LE. You see, if somebody cared enough for the children, we wouldn't have these stories. And that's what you all don't seem to understand. And when it starts getting ghetto ratchet of he said, she said, Facebook posts, running to YouTube, let me tell you this, blah, 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 that should tell you something right there, that this is nothing but a bunch of heathens with no care in the world. They don't care about themselves. Their relatives don't care. They're a bunch of damn, hyenas, people that sit out all day on front porches and cars, drinking beer and getting turned up, drinking out of liquor bottles. Yeah, I'm going to say that because that's the attitude. That's what got the kids gone in the first place. Non-compliant parents. Now everybody wants to come forward acting like they're concerned about missing kids, now dead children. Well, you a day late, dollar short. Had somebody cared about the kids, we wouldn't be talking about them now. Because nobody cared for the children. And there are no guarantees that when children go into foster care that they're going to get better care than what they got from their parents or their caretakers. That's what you all need to understand. They could do a thorough background check, job check, home check, references that still has nothing to do with the mental state of the persons. You just assume that somebody's taking a child in for foster care or wanting to adopt a child, that they are mentally stable, financially stable. That's a myth. So what's good on paper doesn't always pan out. And that is what has happened in the case of the Cal City boys. They went from foster care to foster care, adopted by their foster care parents, and were abused by them, point blank. And maybe had somebody seen the signs that the children were being neglected, mistreated, the children would have been removed from their care and sadly back into foster care. Because no matter how you cut it, with all these frivolous lawsuits popping up by the bio donors, the proof is in the pudding. None of these people were fit to have children. Ryan Dean, Mr. Pettis, their mothers, nor Jacqueline or Giselle West. And that is the sad part of this storyline, is that all parties involved had no business in the child rearing business. And the state can only do so much because they're not mind readers. And this will continue to happen because you don't know people. So it doesn't matter if you're talking about foster children, adoptive children, if you're talking about relationships. People are murdered every day out here. People are beat up, stabbed, robbed, tortured, kidnapped, sold, human trafficked. Every worst thing you can think done to man and woman, child, has been done. Because you don't know people. So if a stranger will walk up to you and blow your brains out, why are you shocked? You hear that a child has been mistreated by his or her own mom, dad. Because you don't know people. That's the assumption. Oh, what's family? They should be all right. Well, they weren't. That's why they ended up with the West family. You don't know people. I keep trying to tell you all that. Stop putting your faith in man. It's in the scripture. You will surely be disappointed. The children were never safe with their own parents. The children weren't safe when they went into foster care. In Cal City, in Bakersfield California police departments knew that the children were dead, and I'd have a problem with that. 1 year is a long time to have knowledge. You can't logically explain knowing that the children are dead and not tell the public. Whether you have evidence to bring forth an indictment or not, you can still say, we believe the children are dead from information that we have received, but we do not know the location of the children. And this is still an ongoing investigation. That's all they had to say last year. And that would have cut down all the rumors and rhetoric pertaining to the boys. I thank you all for joining me. Prayers for justice for the children. That when this case goes to trial, that 12 members of the jury will find the evidentiary material solid and accurate to bring forth a guilty verdict for both of the adoptive parents, Jacqueline and Giselle West. And I hope that in time that these two machines will realize the evidence against them and they'll tell the truth to where the children can be found to end this charade. Because it is cruel to law enforcement and those who do care for the children to prolong what should have been known a long time ago, the location of the boys. And as far as the bio donor seeking monies from the state, that is to be expected because they're bottom feeders. They're the reasons the children got in the state's care in the first place and sadly placed with the West. And now want money. None of them have been seen in a whole year. And now they have the nerve to have lawyers speak on their behalf to want money from the state. Thank you, Mandy. So don't you find it interesting? You did everything you could to dismantle your own family that you're now blaming the state for. You had ample enough time to bring forth a lawsuit against the state of California when the children were in the state's care as babies before they could even walk and talk. And you didn't bring forth any lawsuits against the state of California for these babies. And you have the gall now, when you find out the children are dead, you want to now sue the state. That shows me your true intention, that you never cared for the children in the first place. That's the reason why the damn state took your kids, and you never complied to get them back, Mr. Pettis and Ryan Dean and any other entities wanting money. You only want money because the children are deemed dead. But before that, you didn't give a fuck about those kids. You didn't give a fuck about them. And you don't give a fuck about them now. That's my commentary. Thank you for joining me this Everyday Shenanigans. God bless all of you.